And hey, everybody, welcome to the Q&A for Shorts program number 3. I am Tim Anderson, programming coordinator here for the Florida Film Festival. And I want to first of all give a shout out to ECLAT Law for sponsoring this and thank them as well. And I want to welcome our filmmakers who are on the cast. So let me go ahead and get started with Sergine. Hi.
Hello, my name is Sergine, or I'm sure you can say Sergine, Tim. I'm sure.
I could have, yeah.
I directed Wichita. I'm originally from Montreal, but I live in Los Angeles. Do you want me to say a little bit about Wichita, or we'll get to it later?
No, say a little bit about the film, sure.
So, well, first of all, the writer is here. It was written by Bo Price, who's here. Wichita is my first film. I directed theater and voiceover for over 20 years, but it was my first time transitioning to film. And when I read this script from Bo, I thought it had everything a short should have. It's about a woman whose husband is on a business trip to Wichita, Kansas, and she's in bed with her lover. And so now her husband calls her to ask her something in his sock drawer. So now she has to run home and she's going to stall for time, asking a lot of questions about Wichita. I don't know if you want to add something to it, Bo.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bo, introduce yourself as well.
My name is Bo Price. I am the writer of Wichita, and I am from Wichita, Kansas originally. And I've been out here in Los Angeles for a very, very long time. Yeah, and this was a great project for me that Sergine picked this script of mine for her first film. It was very meaningful to me being from Wichita. She got the best performers in the world, I think, to play these parts, and she elevated it far beyond what I honestly thought possible when I wrote this almost as a joke a few years ago. And I'm grateful for the experience and happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. Carrie, hi, welcome.
Hi, my name is Carrie Carusone. I'm the writer-director of Joining Birds, which is a realism drama about a teenage girl just searching for the affection of her very absent mother, who's sort of on her own journey to discover herself. But I'm born and raised in Florida. I'm in Tampa, Florida right now. Always been here, so yeah.
We're very excited to see you back at the film festival this year. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we come up.
I feel so honored to be here.
Well, we love the film. It's fantastic. Oh, Jon, hi. I'm so happy.
Me too. I feel like we never get to hang out.
I know. Welcome.
Right.
Tell us who you are and how infamous you are.
My name's Jon Crawford. I made Taffy, which is a kind of simple film about kind of just a conversation between two different queer men in Memphis. And yeah, this is this is my fourth, I think third or fourth time with Florida Film Festival. I think Foot Soldier was in there.
I think it's third.
Third, okay. Well, it's been amazing, and every time I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to get to Florida. And then this time I was planning this would be the year because and then, you know, with COVID, it was cut short for me. But super excited, and it's such an honor to be in this group. And I watched all the films and I was like, these are also amazing. It's so cool to see all these amazing films. So it's a big honor.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited that we're showcasing Taffy, and we'll talk a little bit about this film too, and sort of the intent behind it. And that brings on KD, who opens this program. Hi, KD.
Hi, I'm KD Davila. I'm from Los Angeles, and I directed Please Hold, which is a sci-fi short that is kind of a commentary on the justice system, set in an automated justice system that's sort of designed like if it was run by Spirit Airlines. So, so that's the future looking at, right? I don't know.
Oh,
so.
I feel like it's for sure the future we are all doomed to.
Yeah. So, comedy with some social commentary a little bit. So,
exactly.
Absolutely. Well, we're really excited to launch the program with this short. We think it's going to really grip the audience and both drive them insane and hopefully cause them to think a little bit as well. So,
yeah.
Brett, welcome.
Hey guys, I'm Brett Cramer. I'm originally from Virginia, and I directed Together. Really excited to be in this block. I watched all your films and they're all awesome. And I have lots of questions for all of you, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But yeah, Together is about an engaged couple meeting with a priest to plan their wedding. But slowly throughout the course of the meeting, we find out that they may not be the best fit for each other, and they have some things to figure out along the way, to put it mildly. And yeah, it was inspired by, both my own personal experiences and relationships, but also things that have happened to my friends. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, there's lots of things. As a terrible Catholic who grew up that way and has just like run screaming the other direction, I have so much triggering like moments here. Like, we're gonna talk. We're gonna get deep. We're gonna go deep.
You and me both.
And that brings us to the closing film in the program. Ryan Mack, welcome, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Ryan Mack. I live in Los Angeles, here in Hollywood. This is actually my first short film, so I'm super excited to have it in your festival. So thank you.
Oh man, that's awesome.
I co-wrote this film with my brother. It's called Your Family Now, and it's about a married couple visiting the husband's inherited family home for the first time. And that night, the husband tells his wife about this family curse. And of course, right after that, things take a turn for the worst. We actually wrote it. It comes from like sort of a darker story where like we had lost both of our parents to cancer, and we were like struggling with how to tell a film about this. And we started to write like a biographical version of it. We were like, this is way too heavy and no one's gonna want to watch this. This isn't really fun at all. And so we just like shifted gears, put this theme into a horror short, and ended up writing this story as like a way to kind of process everything. And I feel like this is a much better way to experience it. And just it turned out really well, and we're really happy with it. So
nice. We really love the film, and Kat, I know, loves it, so I'm sure she's going to talk to you about that as well. We liked having it in the same program as Together, because in our ideas it was like, oh, the married couple goes off. And why would you? No sane people should ever just go to an abandoned house upstate New York ever. It's just never going to work out.
Recipe for disaster, for sure.
Absolutely. So well, let me start with a little bit of questions for everybody. Let me start with Carrie. So I know that this film is a film that you made as you were coming out of film school. And I know we're going to ask a lot of the people about inspiration, but the film has a really unique mother-daughter story. And I've seen some similar kind of things where the child is almost more the parent than the parent is, but this is just a really interesting and unique relationship. And I want to say specifically that the film is gorgeously shot. I'm really loved how it was made.
Seconded, absolutely.
So yeah, just telling a little bit about this story.
Yeah, so the film is inspired by my childhood. After my parents divorced, my mom went on sort of a self-exploration to rediscover herself. And while now I really appreciate her doing that, and I'm happy that she did that, I was able to reflect on how that often left me like on my own. But no matter how independent and separated and okay with that I felt, I did have this constant longing to get to know her more. And that conversation they have on the beach, I think, is the best highlight of that, where the mom's like, I know who you are, but the daughter doesn't feel like she knows who her mother is. But yeah, and my cinematographer is Christopher Violet. He's one of my peers and amazing. I think it's the most visual film I've made. I've only made 2, truthfully. But yeah, we really pushed the saturation of making this like it's supposed to be a realism, but I wanted to add that color and keep that prominent since it is in Florida. And in Florida, you have these beautiful pink skies, and there's a lot of neon everywhere too, and tiny beach towns. So I wanted to bring that element in to this kind of desaturated lifestyle.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring that up. We actually did a Florida Shorts Q&A just the other day, and we were discussing about shooting Florida, and that you do really need to push your color when you do stuff that takes place here, because yeah, it is, especially if you hit out any beach town at night, it's just there. Yeah, the neon's just blowing up everywhere. It's like living in a Dario Argento movie, except that there's palm trees.
Yeah, and I mean, it's specifically based in Daytona because I traveled a lot as a kid with my parents, and I stayed in motels all the time. And Daytona is, I mean, it's like Spring Breakers, the movie. It is as neon as you think. but it's also extremely grimy.
Yeah, don't touch anything in Daytona while you're there.
Especially this year.
Yes.
It's true. John, let's move on to you. So Taffy is a very calm movie. And what I appreciate about it is the connection that these two characters are having, and the fact that you decided to shoot the film two different ways to kind of express that. So I want to know why this story, because for the previous films that we've had in the festival and movies of yours that I've seen that didn't even make the festival, they tend to have they have an edge to them, no question about it. I'm being generous, like kind, but sometimes they're aggressively edgy. And it's
more
really
gentle.
It's sweet. It's really sweet and lovely, and a really beautiful portrait.
Thank you.
So, what happened in your life to make you calm down?
I think, well, with this one, I was doing a residency at Crosstown Arts in Memphis. And I got there, I had this plan of making this like micro budget feature with my 3 months there. And it was this grand plan. And then I started just talking with different queer people in town, and it slowly became this project that was just, I wanted to do a portrait project and just interview people. And so I created a little site. It's called tellmeamemory.org. And it's where I've done these portraits. It's just trying to get out of the way and let people tell their own story. So I was kind of, I was inspired by Mike Disfarmer, who's an Arkansas photographer, but is kind of now famous long after he died. He became famous for his kind of garage portraits. So I kind of had that inspiration. And then I met Curtis, and I was still kind of writing this micro budget film. And Curtis and I just had a lot of conversations, and I thought it'd be fun to interview Curtis and then write his life as a fictional monologue, and then make that a scene in this larger film. And it kind of became this reflection on my own kind of, as a filmmaker, I think as all of us are, when we go to a place, there's this interesting way of getting to know people through filmmaking and getting to connect with them and hear their story. That's very, very intimate, and kind of connects, for me, it started to connect generationally, and it started kind of calming me down in these anxious times, because even though, social media and such, it feels like everything's so new. In this conversation with Curtis, I was like, oh, people have gone through this before. There's nothing that hasn't been kind of talked through before. And so it was kind of for me, it was a calm film because it was a sense of just fellowship, I guess. So
yeah, I think that's something. And you and I, we've chatted outside of this venue on it, but I think there's an idea of doing a queer-centric film that avoids every possible thing that you think you're going to see when you watch a movie that's essentially about two gay characters. It's just like, I don't know, it's just like I was just really taken in by how peaceful and how I wanted to spend time with them.
Cool.
So John, I had a question for you. So I know you're a narrative filmmaker. Everything you've sent us in the past has been narrative. Did you consider ever, especially with this type of subject matter or this type of subject, did you consider shooting it as a doc?
Yeah, I did. I did think of that, and I shot a few portraits kind of in that doc form. And lately, strangely, the thing I've been getting more and more jobs on are docs. So my life has kind of transitioned a little from the narrative space into the doc space recently. And I think I'm just still kind of learning how to do the docs. So I felt comfortable in this kind of fusion area where I could use a lot of, and Curtis and I kind of sat down and wrote it together, where I could use a lot of his life. And I asked Curtis, I was like, can we just make this a portrait? And he goes, because he's an actor, he's like, as an actor, it's fun for me to embody it as a character.
Yeah.
So I might be more open to talking about things that way. So yeah, I have thought about it. I actually do have an interview with Curtis in his a straight portrait, just a regular portrait, which I can also send along if you're interested in seeing it. But it's kind of basis for the short.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sergine Bo, let me kind of pose this question to you together, and you can divvy up how you want to try to answer it, because we know how Zoom works. You can either take turns or try to talk over the top of each other, which is really exactly what Zoom was designed for. I think. But when I meet with a lot of film school students and talk to people about that, one of the things I always kind of talk about is this idea of being able to execute one very simple idea kind of perfectly, and to do that in a very tight window. And this film kind of has that formula just nailed to the wall. Like, it's a great moment reveal at the ending. And it carries it just a tick further than, it could have stopped, but it didn't. And so it has this moment of extra thing that totally works. Usually that moment that carries it past fails. So I guess I want to know about conceiving the short specifically, and if it was done because of the constrictions that the film actually had.
Bo, do you want to start?
Well, I wrote it several years ago, and most of it was there in the script that Sergine picked up to direct, with the exception of the final scene. I mean, there was something written there. However, the reason that beat works is because she strongly encouraged me to rewrite what I had, because what I had was terrible. And, being a very good director, she didn't use those words. But in a very encouraging way, she found a way for me to go back to the drawing board and find a scene that would actually work.
Yeah.
And so I put together several options, and she presented them to the actor, and together, they assembled that final scene. Sergine?
Yeah, I mean, the main idea, because we were so lucky to have Jeremy Sisto, it was like, okay, well, let's use him and let's have something happen at the end. So just to answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the film doesn't have to go exactly where it goes, but I just think what we took away from it is that, like, it doesn't feel the need to do a lot of extemporaneous information about these two characters. I mean, what you have basically going on is, it's bad, and but you don't know how bad it is until just like this one moment. But we just really loved maybe somebody else can chime in on this, but I feel like I'm stumbling over myself. But just the idea of her running down this sidewalk in this neighborhood, having this just like asinine conversation, as she's trying to get home, is just like, you can't not, like, it's so hard to just not watch that and just say, like, you're half rooting for her, and then you're half like, oh, you're just terrible. You're just terrible. So we got a real kick out of maybe
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we'll call it morally ambiguous, that we sort of still like her even though she's cheating on her husband.
Just to chime in,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask about why Wichita, but Bo, you already addressed
Yeah.
that. How do you know so much about Wichita? Why did you pick that city? But you
Yeah.
being from there, you already kind of.
Yeah, ironically, one of my initial thoughts too is like, how much of a deep dive into Wichita did you have to do to write this? The answer is none.
You grew up with it.
I mean, we
Yeah.
had to look it up. We had
Yeah.
to look up Cowtown,
No one else heard of it.
Barry Sanders, and then we just used the personalized, as if we were talking about a small town in Quebec. So
I love it. It's really great.
Yeah, one of the amazing things about this program that I love so much is we see hundreds and hundreds of shorts in every category, including like 800 to 900 in this category. And it's so hard to make a really good original short in 6 minutes or less, or even 10 minutes or less. And this program has 4 films that are under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And they're all excellent and so different. And it's just like, that's a gift for us. We love that, because it's really, when you're struggling with really long shorts, to have shorter shorts that are excellent is a thrill for us. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Let's follow you guys. Congratulations. KD. So I saw this film actually during Fantastic Fest, And then I, reached out and I told all the programmers, I was like, when it came out, I was like, I didn't tell them where I saw it or anything like that. I just said, this short's awesome. Watch it. So for all they know, I saw it. But anyone who's, just like 3 weeks ago, I had to call like an insurance company. Anyone who has ever had to call anyone or talk to anyone in service ever on earth.
Yeah.
This movie is so traumatic. Like
that's what we were going for, basically. So mission accomplished, I guess. I mean, yeah, like it is, we wanted to kind of personalize the, so I have never personally been to prison, but I know people who have. And my husband is an immigrant, and we went through the bureaucracy of just like, having the lens put on you of having to prove that you're married. It's and like you get caught in these like weird bureaucratic, like you fall through these cracks sometimes. And this is something that like has happened to some people that I know, is when you fall through these cracks, everybody knows, like when you're on the line with these automated systems, there's no way out really until you get a hold of a human being. And so that was kind of the genesis of this idea, is like, what's going to happen to those cracks in the system when we start removing more humans from the element of the justice and penal system. Like what's going to happen when it's becoming a little bit more automated, because it's already getting there. So yeah.
I mean, the thing that this movie kind of does force you to like kind of think about is that like, everybody's like, not everybody, this very small group of very loud, angry people are like, you can't pay anyone at McDonald's $15 an hour to make your fries, so we'll just get a machine and you can talk to the machine. And this problem is this idea that like, I mean, raise your hand if you're on this call right now and you have screamed into your phone human being, like everyone's like, just like whatever you've got to yell to get the human being to pick up the phone. And I don't care if the human being is anywhere else in the world, as long as they're an actual breathing. Like that's what watching this short is like. And it does addresses the problems that I think also exist inside of the prison system, but and also with immigration. So I think you touched on that both times in your statement, but it really is why this film works so well, because it could just be a joke about like the worst version of being stuck on customer service hell. But
we wanted to take it seriously as well, because when you're like, because it starts out a little bit like, haha, this might be kind of funny, and then like slowly it's like, oh no, like my life is on the line here, and like I may never get out of this place. And I think that there's something, playing with the comedy thriller tone is always fun.
There's so many smart moments in it. I mean, we know everybody, theoretically, being charged to be in prison is an actual thing, but like this idea that you're working in prison for these like pennies and being charged, like dollars a day to like be there.
Well, and it reminded me of like a prison injustice version of Orange County, the movie, because he has mistaken identity, and so the wrong Sean goes to Yale or Harvard or wherever he went.
Oh my God. So, well, Brett, okay, let's dive into my childhood really, like right now.
Wait, I have a question for Brett.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Kat.
Okay. How much research did you do into vaginal mucus?
Oh.
Yeah, so
I'm really interested.
Fortunately, I mean, ironically, a lot of that came from an actual meeting with a priest that I had.
Oh my God.
So there was not too much Googling required. Fortunately for me, but unfortunately, I guess, depending on how you look at it. Yes, because the film is, I mean, full disclosure, based on a personal experience. I was in that situation. Wow. I did gender swap the characters, so I was pretty much the woman character. Okay. Not the guy, but the priest was, and I'm by no means trying to be too critical of Catholicism. The priest was a very nice man, and he was just trying to be helpful, but he was saying things, and I was just like, I don't think that's true. I mean, I didn't want to just I didn't want to like confront him about it, but he was saying things. There are other things that also didn't make it into the movie that were in the script. Like at one point he said condoms were only like 40% effective, and I was like, are they? Maybe if you're using them wrong, I don't know.
You use them as water balloons, they're only 40% effective.
But yeah, his whole, or at least I don't know, his whole thing was this natural family planning, which is apparently it's timing your intercourse based on ovulation. And his whole thing was like, you're good, just do that and you won't get pregnant. And it was just based on everything that I had been taught. It just didn't seem to match with my my
7th grade sex ed.
Yeah, I was gonna say my knowledge, which is probably pretty limited, but even when I ended up talking to my sister and my mom about this, they're like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah.
It's weird how made up religious sex education isn't accurate.
Yeah,
I want to know about your casting. These two are comic freaking gold, man. Their chemistry is insane, and your female lead, I would put her in every movie ever made. Like ever.
So yeah, the Meg and Tyler, who plays her fiance, they're a couple in real life.
Okay.
So yeah, when they're arguing at the end, I don't know how much of that was true to life, or how much like truth they could dig into there. I didn't want to get in the middle of that. I just kind of let it go and let them roll. But yeah, Meg is someone I've known for a while. I've made a bunch of shorts with her. She has a really good ability, I think, to just forget that you're watching a performance, which is, in my opinion, the goal of all acting, is just to make you forget that you're watching something simulated and that you are watching reality. And she has this ability to kind of take what I've written, which isn't always great, and just kind of change it on the fly by incorporating a little bit of improv, or just taking certain words and putting a spin on them to make it sound like she's just coming up with that on the spot, and it's not manufactured dialogue. Because I'll be the first to admit, I'm not the best dialogue writer, but when you get an actor like that who has that ability, suddenly everything seems much more real. And that's why she's listed as co-writer on this too, because she ended up, including so much of her own, so many of her own ideas into it, that at the end, that whole ending is, at least 75% her, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah, what she does is just manage to really walk this fine line between delivering a performance that in the wrong hands would be outrageous and ridiculous and feel like a stand-up comedy routine, and make it just right enough that you like actually believe like the level of her outrage, what she's going through, is justifiable and real. So, and it's a very thin line between doing that and just being like, just chewing the scenery. So,
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It is a little tricky because, if you angle this subject matter maybe just 5 degrees in a different direction, it turns into like a really broad,
it's very broad,
like Judd Apatow comedy where everyone's like riffing about outrageous stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love those types of movies, but you do lose the realism. So you kind of want to keep it grounded as much as possible for it to have the impact that we, want it to have by the end.
Absolutely. So Ryan, I feel like I want to let Kat ask you a question. So, Kat?
Well, you kind of addressed it in the beginning, that you conceived of this idea with your brother and post parental death. Sorry for your loss, but I was curious if, like, in the realm of this script, like, had they talked about his family being cursed previously, or just...
when do you bring that up in a relationship?
It was kind of funny building that out. I mean, his character is like, I related more to that character, obviously, because he has this thing where like his grandfather told him this thing when he was a kid, he knew that there was like his family had had a mysterious past and this strange story involved in it, but he didn't really believe it himself. So it's one of those things. It's like, when do you like, even though it's something that's always been in the back of his head, he never knew how to like express that to his fiance and then wife, because it's like, how do I talk about this weird thing? And it's not until it comes back to the home for the first time that his past starts bubbling up in him, and he can't really avoid it anymore. And then like over drinks that one night, he finally just kind of tells her what's going on, because he's starting to get cagey just being in the house again.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's in that moment that everything, he just has to tell her about it. And of course she's left,
Too late.
yeah, it's a little late for that. Can't really go anywhere now. But yeah, so it's about him sort of struggling with this fear that like, am I next? Could this happen to me? Or is it not even real? And that's something that we kind of struggle with a lot, is like having a disease in your family. You never know, like, is this going to also get me? And like, when could it come? It could come at any time. I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people struggle with. And so we were just kind of finding this, that's kind of what this story is touching upon for us, at least.
Okay, so, yeah, that was my follow-up question. Like, in your eyes, like, what is this curse? And like it being associated with some sort of like congenital disease or something like that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the nightmare creature thing. Or
yeah, and I'm also just a huge horror fan, so it was like, this was like a way to take all that and like put it through a lens of a scary story, and just kind of make it a little more fun and entertaining for people. And hopefully it scared people.
Yeah, every once in a while we put a horror movie into competition, and you're the only one this year. And
oh wow,
maybe there might not have even been one last year at all. Wow. I can't remember. But it's not often we put one all the way into competition. It just showed it really showed a really strong hand at like putting together characters that weren't cardboard, even though the situation was a little like, oh dear God, why would you ever do this?
Yeah, I mean, we really wanted it to be more than just a scary story, and I feel like we got a little bit of that in there. And I have to, my cast was so incredible. They really brought this into life. Like, same thing, talking about how, dialogue is not the easiest thing to write, and it's amazing what your cast can bring to a scene. And I think we were really lucky to have Russell, who we found in South Carolina. We were actually only casting in the tri-state area, and then he submitted, and he crushed it. We had to bring him on the project, so we ended up flying him up for this. And he did such a great job. And then Emma, she's been in the industry for about 10 years or so, and she also just had this really great technique. She was just so natural, and their relationship worked really well. I thought it was pretty believable. And yeah, I just feel like they brought a lot to the project as well. It was really cool having them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Steven, Kat, do you have anything you want to ask everybody specifically before we open up to the group? Steven, you do.
Yeah, I just had a quick something for Brett. One of the things I loved about your movie was that you the character of the husband to be really embodied something that I've noticed as a formerly religious guy. I've kind of noticed this people adherents to a particular religion kind of counterintuitively have the luxury of being sort of like lax, like sort of not taking it terribly seriously. And I thought that the husband to be character really grabbed that, while the couple are sitting there hearing from the priest, hearing from the voice of authority for their religion, the practicing loyal Catholic is the one who kind of knows, okay, we really don't have to pay a lot of attention to this. Whereas the newcomer to the Catholicism is the one saying, well, wait a minute, I don't like how all this is written out. I'm not swallowing this. I was just wondering if that was an observation that you had made that you'd wanted to include in the movie.
Yeah, it totally was. And it totally mirrored the experience that I went through, where at the time my partner was a practicing Catholic, but they had been a Catholic their whole life and had many years to come to terms with that and decide what they wanted to stay really strict about and what they wanted to be really lax on. Whereas I was getting asked like what my relationship with God was like, and I was totally unprepared to answer that question. And to be completely honest, I didn't have much of a relationship with God. That's just not how I was raised. But, when you're in the hot seat, you can't really, say that. It's like, well, I don't care at all about God. Not that I don't care, but it's just, you can't really say that. So yeah, that was definitely like the differing value systems and how the differing ways in which each of these people were raised. I definitely want to convey that, and how it's a big deal for one person, and for the other, it's like, oh, this is business as usual. Yeah, we're lying to a priest. I do this all the time.
Exactly.
But it's like ideas like, you can't lie to a priest. And I was like, oh, jeez, yes, you can.
Yeah,
So
I guess
much.
if you're practiced at it, yeah. But
really
again, I want to reiterate though that everyone is well intentioned. The priest is well intentioned. The partner is well intentioned. It's just some couples move so fast, the train leaves the station, they get really far down the road, and then they figure out, oh, wait a minute, we haven't really talked about
anything. Yeah.
Where we stand on these important issues. And that's kind of what the short is about.
Awesome. Well, on that note, let's open it up to each of you guys. And maybe you can talk a little bit about to someone else about their film, or something that struck you. Don't be shy, just come in.
I'll start. I have a question for KD. So the thing that struck me about your movie is that there's just so much what I call supplemental material in that film, because you have the whole storyline and all the footage with your main actor in his prison cell, but then you have everything that's happening on the screens, whether it's commercials or different motion graphics pieces. That material on its own is enough for like its own movie, pretty much. Which I'm sure required a bunch of different shoots and a lot of different effort there. So yeah, I guess my question is, how did you do all of that? How did you, just from like a logistical standpoint, schedule wise? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we did a lot of it in advance, and we did it. We wanted really badly for it to not look like a green screen sort of television screen. So we were like, we really, really, really wanted to do it all practically, and then have it playing on the screen so you could see the light on the actor's face, and so he would have something to react to. And that was challenging, but it was like kind of helpful in a way to really to know what your movie's going to look like, because especially with effects driven movies, often you can be like, I have no idea what my movie's going to look like.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah.
You're like, they're shooting on a green screen, and just like, they don't know what they're looking at, and we just have to hope it all works out. But we really wanted to do as much as we possibly could practically. So, so we had an animator, and I mean, he did a great job with Scaly, the little justice scale public defender dude.
Scaly.
Yeah, and he was like such a personality, and that was something that I was like, it was so amazing getting to work with an animator and getting to work with our visual effects artist, Dave McConnell, who is from Australia. He did all the drones, and he did a lot more visual effects than you probably even would notice are they're in the film. So it was really it was a lot of luck in knowing the right people, and then just being extremely prepared. And this was also my first time directing a movie. I've worked in television for a while, so I've been on sets while special effects and VFX have been going on, but I've never done them myself. So this was it was a challenge, but I was like, being over prepared is a good idea if you're doing visual effects.
Yeah, absolutely.
That the Scaly thing reminded me of the old paperclip dude in Microsoft Word from 15. Definitely. I don't know if that was intentional, but that was
definitely
hilarious.
Inspired by Clippy. Yeah, and my friend Greg voiced that character, and because I was just like, you have a voice that's perfect for a guy who pops up and says, hey.
Yeah, I'll just say, being in the theme park capital of the world, that character is very on point. I feel like you can throw a rock down at Disney or something and hit that exact thing on the screen. It's scary accurate. I think that's what the movie affects me so much, is because it feels wholly real. This is absolutely the future I'm going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and that was definitely one of the things we were aiming for, which was we wanted the future to feel how we all thought that back in 2000, we all thought that 2020 would have like flying
Flying
cars
cars, yeah.
and stuff, but like we don't. It just
Yeah.
all looks the same as it did in 2000, but we have smartphones now, which is nice. And so it was like we wanted the future to seem kind of like a disappointing future, but not dystopian, just disappointing, because that's how it's probably going to be.
Yeah, somebody had said not too long ago that if you took somebody from like 1982 or 85 or something and dropped them in today and said, this is the future, they would be like, yeah, this is pretty much exactly the same. And they said, well, then like show them an iWatch, like, you know, and then be like, oh shit. But it's like, yeah, well, that's our future. We didn't get the flying cars. Like I could totally like troll someone on Twitter from my arm. So anybody else with some questions for each other up there?
I mean, while we're talking about like visual effects and stuff, Ryan, your monster,
Yeah.
is it wholly like special effects, or are there some VFX that like add to it? Because I thought it was incredible. I mean, I was watching it. I'm gonna rewatch it again on a bigger screen, but I watched on my phone, and from my phone, it was like night and day incredible.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, our artist did a really great job. That's actually all practical.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just with lighting, we wanted to hide it as much as we could, and we didn't want to show it too much. But it's kind of funny, like I drew what I wanted the creature to look like and gave it to our artist, but I didn't see her in full makeup until like we were about to shoot her. So it was like as soon as she walked on set, everybody was just their jaws were on the ground. And it was it took a lot of restraint to not show more of the creature because it looked so cool. But yeah, I kind of based it off of an older painting. I actually wrote the name of it. It's supposed to feel like a sleep paralysis monster that's like sitting on your chest.
Yeah.
Was kind of the vibe I was going for. And yeah, it was based on this painting called Nightmare by Nikolai Abelgard. I might be saying that wrong. And then there's another one called The Nightmare by Henry Fuseli. But I saw that one on Pinterest and I was just like, this is it. We have to do something like this. This is the scariest thing to me. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to create it. And it was my first time working with prosthetics, but we had a great time.
Yeah, then the lighting on that, when you first show the monster in that close up, like I could have sworn it was like special effects lighting. Like the lighting was incredible there.
Awesome. That's all my brother. He was a cinematographer.
Wow.
I'll let him know.
Major props to him.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, anyone else there?
Well, I don't have a question, but I just want to say that I really enjoyed watching all your movies.
Oh.
That's all.
Same here. Everyone's work was so great. It was really fun to watch.
We're really proud of this. I mean, we're always proud of all the programs that we put together. But as Matthew said, you know, we're sometimes watching, you know, around 800 films or so this year for this program. In previous years, it's been over 1,000. And to pick the 31 films that got into this program was really a Herculean task. It is every year. And you guys, to your credit, make that easier for us because there are just so many no-brainers that were in this group. Like it was like, this has to play. We have to show this movie. This is just fantastic. So I guess that's a good way to kind of wrap up and say thank you all so much for the work that you're doing. I know a couple are going to be here in person, but for the rest of you, this is really wonderful, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see you in person in the future. Let me go ahead and take this second to wrap this up. Thank you guys, the audience, for watching through the Q&A right now. I hope you loved these guys' films, and make sure you vote for the audience award for your favorite ones, and tell everybody that you know about stuff that you saw that's incredible, because really the shorts programs are where the future of filmmaking is coming from. And we really appreciate everyone here for joining us. We really appreciate you for hanging around, and we'll see you on the next one.